Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, I'm really excited to say I've recently purchased the Panasonic GH6 and here it is. And it is a fabulous camera. Really excited about this camera. I'm not going to go into a lot of specs and a lot of details with this camera. There are masses of reviews online about this particular camera, but I want to cover a few things that I've noticed about it since I've had it. I've had it about a week, so I've done a fair bit of photography and some video clips with this camera, and I've come across a few things that excite me, but a few things that disappoint me as well. When I say disappoint me, and I don't know if there are bugs in the Panasonic system or whether I'm just not used to using Panasonic cameras. Now, I did own the Panasonic S5, I've owned the GH5, the GH4, so I'd like to think I'm fairly familiar with how Panasonic cameras work, but there are a few things that niggled me with the GH6, and I kind of thought they might have got these, well, I wouldn't say right, but they may have looked at these things and done them differently. The first thing that became obvious to me was the size of the text that's displayed in the viewfinder and on the back of the screen. Now, well, I'll show you what I mean. Now, on the display here, you will see obviously the text with shutter speeds, aperture settings and all that sort of stuff. And it's quite small. It's along the bottom of the screen here, same as in the viewfinder, but it is really small. And with my eyesight, I struggled to actually see it sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes I do struggle to actually see the text size that it's displaying. Now, with Fuji cameras, you can increase that text size. You can make it larger. Fabulous. I can see it clearly when I had the XS10, the XT3, so on and so forth. Now, again with the Olympus cameras, right from the OMD EM10 Mark II, right through to the EM1 Mark III, which I'm actually filming the close-up shot on my Olympus OMD EM1 Mark III, but the text size is large and it's bold and it's clear. You're not going to make a mistake of setting the wrong shutter speed or the wrong aperture because you can see it clearly, and I really like that. I did find with the Panasonic cameras, it's just that little bit small, quite a bit smaller than what I would personally like, but I am getting used to it. I also found the function buttons for photos and videos are the same. So what I mean is, say for example white balance, and you want to pre-assign, say, this white balance button to in video to be something else, maybe setting your audio levels, whatever it might be, history, you might want to have a histogram display, whatever. That would be the same in photo as well. So you can't have one function button do two different functions. One for video, one for photos. That's really annoying. I have discovered though that in the menu you can go into a creative video set. I think that's what we call it, creative video set, and you can set things slightly differently depending on whether you're in photo or whether you're in video. For example, I've got set for photos, I've got it set to a natural profile, so it's in natural profile, but for video I've got it set to a flat profile. So now when I go into the video mode, because it's on the master dial on the top here, the PASM dial is the master control dial. So you can set that to video mode, and then it will come up as flat profile and not natural profile. But if you didn't set it in that creative video setting, then it wouldn't do that. And that's a bit annoying. I was hoping that they may have separated the photo completely separate to the video side, and they haven't. But you've got some control over that. The other thing that really annoyed me was when you go to well, many of the menus, but you go to a menu and it's greyed out, you can't set it. It just says on the menu, it just says this setting can't be set. Why on earth does it not say why you can't set it, or give you a clue as to why you can't set it? I had this with setting the HDMI out to record on my Atmos recorder, and I wanted to trigger the Atmos by the camera, so when I hit the shutter button on the camera, it'll also trigger it on the Atmos. It wouldn't do it. I tried everything, it wouldn't do it. I then discovered by Googling it, I had to go into the timecode setting, and then in timecode there's another setting for HDMI, but it's hidden within timecode. But you would never have found that well, you would have done if you stumbled across every single menu. But why don't manufacturers tell you why you can't set a certain function? That really, really annoyed me. I've also discovered, if you look at some of these images on my computer, well, the image quality is fantastic. I'm really, really pleased with the images that are coming off this camera. But if we look at a few of these images on here, let's go into that. They're absolutely fine. They're good. The dynamic range is great. You know, there's a lot of flexibility with, you know, these images. I mean, like that's well underexposed, but there's plenty of dynamic range there to be able to, you know, adjust the exposure levels, the shadows, shadow detail, and bring it right back. Maybe take the highlights down. You know, you can do a lot with it. That's, you know, as it came out of camera, that's how it is afterwards. And the sharpness is great. Being able to set the focus points is easy. But I have discovered that some of the images were corrupt. Now, I've not discovered this with videos, but so for example there, you know, a corrupt image. And I also find that as I scan through the images, some of the images won't even load, because it will say, you know, either the file is corrupt or the, it just says the file is corrupt, or, you know, this file is not supported, you know. And that is a bit of a concern. Now, I am using a cheap, well, I say cheap, it isn't that cheap, but it's, you know, relatively cheap. It was 130 quid or something. I'm using a cheap compact flash card because this camera takes two different cards. So you've got SD card as one option. I'm storing JPEG images on there. It will record video depending on what size card you have and what codecs you're using. But its main feature is the CF Express Type B card. And I did buy off Amazon a cheap CF Express Type B card. So I am hoping it is a fault with a card that's causing these corrupt images and not a fault with the camera. I strongly suspect it is the card. See, look, two on the top there. So, you know, that one was fine. And then we find, you can see there, that one's fine. And then that one's corrupt. And that one's corrupt, one straight after the next. And these sample images, I will be putting on my, there's another crop file. You can see the issues that I'm having there. It's, you know, very annoying. But I will put these sample images right, up on my Flickr page. Now, rather than go through them on the computer, quite often in my YouTube videos, I will go through some of the images. I don't see it relevant here. I mean, you'll be much better off looking at these sample images on my Flickr page, and there'll be a link in the description where to find me sample images, and I say they'll be up on my Flickr page, and they'll be taken with various lenses. Some will be taken with my excellent the 12 to 60 f2.8 to f4 Leica Panasonic Leica lens. It's a lovely lens. I am not going to review this lens just at the moment, simply because I haven't used it long enough to review it. But some of the images will be taken with the Panasonic Leica 12 to 60, and there'll be quite a few images taken with my Olympus lenses, particularly the 8 to 25. Which one is it? This one here, I think. Yeah, the Olympus 8 to 25 lens, which is here. And this is a beautiful lens. This is my sort of go-to lens. I use, I generally keep it on the camera all the time because it covers such a wide range. It covers 16 to 50. So there will be sample images, and I will get round to doing a lot more video with it, so you can actually see what the video quality is like off this camera. I mean, very briefly, you can see the style of the camera is a little bit heavier than some of the other Micro Four Thirds cameras, but I love the handling actually. The grip is great. I've had no issues with the handling or the size. I thought I would do. I thought that would be one of the issues, would be the sheer size of the camera, but it's really good. It's really, really comfortable, and it isn't too heavy. And there's function buttons everywhere where you want them. The focus control jog dial is, you know, exactly where you would want it. Setting your focus modes is where you would want it. It's great. It's a really, really good functional camera. You know, that is the, you know, one of the issues was the corrupt files. So what I would say is check Panasonic's website and order CF Express card that Panasonic have actually tested, you know, and then you know. But if it still, you know, plays up, it probably isn't the card. It might be a fault with the camera. I'll let you know in another video if I'm ordered a Sony Tough, is it Sony Tough CF Express 2 card? Recommended by Panasonic, because I'm a Panasonic, recommended page. I will put a link to the Panasonic site, page in my video description. So if you want to have a look at that, you can. But the only other slight downside, not really for me actually, they've removed the 4K stroke 6K photo mode. It used to be on the top dial here, on the GH5 and one or two other cameras, where you could turn it into 4K 6K mode. They've removed that, but I suspect the reason why they've removed that is two reasons. A, this camera will be sold predominantly to video producers, I'm sure of that, because the video features in it are phenomenal. But secondly, they've introduced, is it 75 frames per second burst mode? But the full focus is fixed. It doesn't autofocus in that. And there's various other burst modes that they've introduced in this camera. So I suspect that's why they've removed the 4K, 6K photo mode. What I want to do now is I've gone through briefly some of its minus points, but I want to go through its fantastic points. It's really, really good points. But for that, rather than me show you the camera, because there's loads of videos online where you can see the camera, I'm going to actually put this camera on my tripod and film the next sequence with this camera in autofocus for two reasons. Firstly, I want you guys and girls to see what the video quality is like from my standpoint. I'll leave it in flat. I'm going to grade it slightly, so it's not going to be in Vlog. I'll shoot it in flat profile, so I can only have to do a little bit of grading. That's what I'm filming my EM1X, the Olympus EM1X in flat profile. The Olympus flat profile, that's over here. That's getting the sort of wide shot. But yeah, that's filming a wide shot and a flat profile. But I've also got my Sony a6600 filming an angle across my shoulder there. But that isn't in flat profile. That's just in a standard profile, standard Sony profile. So let's get this on the tripod so you can actually see what the quality is like. But before I do that, one quick thing, I need to mention this monitor, this screen on the back, and I need to show it to you. It is the best I've ever come across. It's fabulous. It's based on the S1H, where for photography, I love the tilty-wilty screen. So this has got the tilty-wilty screen. You can see that as tilts up and down. That's brilliant for photography. I really don't like the vari-angle screen, the ones that articulate. But if you want to do that, it's also got the articulating screen as well for doing your vlogging and pieces to camera. So they've designed the monitor on the back to do both. So it articulates outwards like that, which is great. But it also goes up and down because it's on this bracket. It is so solid, it's beautiful, love it. And you can also even turn it out like that if it's out, you know. It's a brilliant, brilliant design, love the design. It also has got a fan in the side with 3 various settings. This dissipates the heat beautifully, that does. So you're not going to have any problems with overheating under certain codecs, because this has got a load of internal codecs that other cameras don't have. And it's great because you don't always want to take around an Atmos recorder. I am actually using an Atmos recorder today. I've got it plugged into my EM1 Mark III. I've also got the Ninja Flame plugged into my EM1X. I use that to extend the recording length of those two particular cameras. But now let's stick this on the tripod. I'll go through some of its video features and some of its really strong points that I love about this camera. We'll go through some of these real positive features that I love about this camera. One of them is you can set it to shutter angle as opposed to shutter speed. That is awesome. And I wish, you know, a lot of these pro cameras would do that, because it means once you've got it set to shutter angle, regardless of what frame rate you set, it will set the correct shutter angle for that frame rate. And I've got it set to 180 degrees because that's the one that is recommended, and that's what I've got it set to. So everything should come out fine, regardless of whether I'm shooting at 120 FPS, 100 FPS, whatever it might be. I'm going to get a lovely smooth video when I come to edit it. So that's great, but you can set it to shutter angle as opposed to shutter speeds. The problem with shutter speeds, you've got to keep mentally remember to change your shutter speed according to what frame rate you've got the camera set to. With shutter angle, you don't have to remember that. The camera does it all for you. So that is fantastic. The other lovely thing is it's got a full-size HDMI port. Oh, that is so wonderful. I get so frustrated with breaking HDMI leads. And with my GH4, going back a few years ago, I actually broke the socket on the GH4 and had to send that back into Panasonic for repair. So, it's great that they fitted a full-size HDMI port. Many frame rates and codecs, I mean, there's loads and loads of them. And they all film internally. And that's why it uses the CF Express Type B card to be able to record those frame rates internally rather than having to use an external recorder. Again, fantastic. And no record limit in any of those frame rates. That is fabulous as well. I also like the fact there's 4 custom settings. So I've got a slow motion set to a variable frame rate set to custom 1. Custom 2 is my standard video setting. Custom 3 is a frame rate set to a slow motion frame rate, so on and so forth. So they're fantastic. You can set, the custom settings to whatever you might want to set them to, and there's 4 of them, so that's fabulous. The Animal AF works great with this camera. I'm really enjoying that. I actually wanted the camera with great Animal AF because I do love photographing me cats, and when you've got a camera that picks out the body or the face or the eye automatically without you having to keep moving the focus point around, when you're shooting wildlife or shooting animals, it's fabulous. They move so quick, but it's great to be able to have that, that flexibility. Now, if we look at a quick look at some of these images here, you can see here little Sammy's face and eye picked it out beautifully. Absolutely lovely and sharp when the computer loads it. Beautiful sharp, with him yawning there. Little Molly, nice and sharp, regardless of what lens is fitted to it. That's fitted to my Olympus 40 to 150 with the teleconverter, and it's still working great. And the teleconverter does soften the image just that little bit, but you can see there it's picked out the eye beautifully. Very, very easy to print. Works out great. So very, very pleased with that, very excited about that. As I said earlier, I will put a link in the description of this video to where you can find the sample images I've taken with this camera. But the Animal AF so far is working great. One of my favourite features. The image stabilisation, it's awesome, as it is in the Olympus cameras and other Panasonic cameras. Now that's a great feature of Micro Four Thirds, is the image stabilisation is great, particularly for stills and also for video. I've yet to test it with video, but I know for stills it's great. I've been able to get down to 1.5 to 2 seconds and get a nice sharp image. That is rare for me to be able to get a sharp image at such a slow shutter speed. So you can use that for creating effects, or if you're shooting in particularly in churches, cathedrals, architecture, anywhere where it's lower light and the subject isn't moving, it's great that you can reduce the shutter speed without having to increase the ISO. So that's brilliant. I love the stabilisation. The video assist features are fabulous. Again, it's a very much a video-centric camera, but it's got your vectors, it's got your waveforms, it's got your zebras, it's got focus peaking, it's got them all. It's really, really great. All the video assist features are fabulous on this particular camera. Really, really like that. I've said there's no record limit. That's another great feature of this camera. So you can just keep on going and going and going. That's brilliant for me because I do make fluffs, and it's great that I don't have to keep stopping and starting the camera. I can just leave it rolling and then sort it all out when I get over to my edit suite over there. So that is fabulous as well. USB power delivery. Now that, again, essential for me. I'm not actually running my GH6 off USB at the moment. I haven't even checked if the battery's charged. Didn't think of doing that, but I have tested it and it's brilliant. So I can plug it into either a USB power block or into a USB block that's plugged into the mains, and how to keep the camera running. Well, it keeps the camera running until the card fills up. So here in the studio is brilliant. I don't have to worry about powering the camera. Now, it's got another feature, which is a lock lever on the back. Now, I thought that might have been a gimmick. I'm actually using that, and I'm using it now. It's brilliant. You can set different functions to be locked so they don't accidentally get knocked. And I've set only one at the moment. I've set the dial on the back where I adjust the shutter speeds to be locked. So when I'm in video, I can lock it to the 180 degrees. You know, as I'm moving it around on the tripod, I'm not suddenly going to be shooting at a different shutter angle to what I want to shoot at. So you can lock different levers and buttons and whatever. That is great. And you will find, I'm sure anyone who buys a GH6 will find other uses for that lock lever, so you can lock other functions that you don't want to get knocked. I think that is brilliant. Also, adjusting your audio levels is great. It's got a dedicated button on the top of the camera that takes you straight to your audio monitoring settings, so you can adjust your audio levels from there. It's awesome. So, you know, a lot of positive things about this camera that I really, really love. My main concern, over and above all of these, is how good the autofocus is. Now, as I say, I do need to play with the focus limiter, because apparently if I use a focus limiter, I can stop it focusing on the background. I just worry about anything in the background might be pulsing. I won't know until I study this on the computer. But if you guys and girls notice any imperfections with the autofocus, I'm sure you'll let me know, and that'd be great if you do. I want you to. But I am just using I haven't set any of the settings on the Panasonic camera on the GH6. I've just literally stuck it on the tripod. It's in autofocus. I can see the autofocus is working. I'm looking at my Atmos recorder here, and I can see the peaking is around my glasses. So I suspect the autofocus is working. But what I can't tell is whether it's pulsing. I have no idea. But it does seem to be working. So that is great if that is the case. I've got it set to human face and eye detect. In fact, I'm not even sure I set that up right. I think I've just hit the record button and hope for the best, but we shall see. And I shall see when I edit it. So there we go. That's a quick look at the bad points and the good points of a Panasonic GH6. But overall, to summarise, I'm loving the camera, even though I'm finding it a bit quirky in places. But I am loving the camera, and it's going to be a great tool for me. And as long as the autofocus works for what I need, you know, then I think it's going to be a winner. I'm loving the audio level controls are easy to set. I'm loving the fact that it's got, it's got, which is fantastic. It's got a red tally light on the front, a tally light on the back, which you can turn off if you want to, but it's got a red frame around the monitor, so you can clearly see that it's recording. The Olympus cameras, the new OM1 has got a red frame around the monitor, but the EM1 Mark III has got a piddly little display in the top left hand corner, which is really frustrating because quite often you'll think you're recording when you're not. Same as with my Sony a6600. It's got a little tiny record light on the bottom left hand corner. It's not absolutely obvious that you're recording. So I'm loving the fact that the GH6 has got those, again, video assist features. They're fabulous. Really, really like that. So there we go. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Hit the like button if you do like the content of my videos. Let me know if you want to see more videos about the GH6. And if you have any questions to ask me about the GH6, feel free to do so, and I will reply to as many as I can. Or what I may well do is put those questions into a follow-up video. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos relating to video, photography, audio, podcasting. And don't forget to subscribe and like. Cheers for now. Bye.